Get ready to remove the filter from your timeline. Get ready to break the censorship of social media. Get ready to support the grassroots alternative to establishment propaganda. Get ready for an authentic voice. Get ready to resist cancel culture. Get ready for free speech media. This is FSM.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us to the end of Fight Week. I am Harrison Kemp, joined by David Fite, and today we're just going to tell you a little bit about who David is, what his show is, why it is so dang important, and some of the cool stuff he's done over the last year. But first, I'm going to do a sound check to make sure our audio is coming in properly, because otherwise this is all for naught. It is, and when you don't do the audio all that often, it's important to make sure and double check from time to time. It is, and just nothing. It is a beautiful face, but you think someone would have commented at some point, "Hey man, we can't hear you. What are you doing?" But so David, who are you? What are you? Who are you? That's the first question. Why are you on my show today? Happy anniversary. So David Fite is a podcaster, somebody who's trying to really work for that bottom unity within the Libertarian Party and within the liberty movement more in general. And you've also got quite a bit of experience actually inside the political realm. You've ran for office, you've been on campaigns. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that side of you? That's a lot of doors. That's a lot of walking. So now through all of that, like through all those various campaigns you've worked on, through all the door knocking, through the various positions you've held, what would you say has been kind of your biggest lesson that you've learned about politics that you can hand off to other people who are trying to kind of do the same thing? Yeah, and maybe not even something, be yourself. When you do the audio all that often, it's important to make sure I'm listening, but we're having audio problems.
Even compared to when you're running a campaign full of talking points given to you by a campaign team. And it's really obvious to those of us that know what we're looking for. And I think even a great deal of voters can sniff out that bullshit pretty quickly. Uh, there's a reason nobody was excited or Hillary Clinton. There's a reason that people were excited about Donald Trump because they actually thought he believed what he was saying. He's a grifter and a liar too, but he was really, really good at what he was doing. Most of the people in the LP aren't. We pander and we try to like say talking points from one group or the other to try to get them on our side. Meanwhile, that group of people hates all of the other talking points that we've been using for our campaign because they were all targeted at other groups, and it just doesn't work. We try to run a Obama plus Trump campaign instead of just running our own candidates.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed and
So
have
that's
gripes.
I think my biggest lesson.
That's something I have gripes with the LP about too, is that
Mhm.
we try to pander more than we do just be libertarians. We try to say, hey, we're like the
Mhm.
Democrats on this issue, or hey, we're like the Republicans here. When really we should just be saying, hey, this is our platform, this is what we are, this is what we believe. And again, it's hard when talking about libertarians too, because there's so many different strains of libertarian. It's like, well, this is my libertarian principles. Okay, well, I'm a libertarian socialist. I have different principles than a libertarian anarchist. Or, so the more that you get involved within party politics, have you found that it can be hard to work with people who you don't agree with on some very fundamental philosophical reasons? Or is, as long as the fight is against the state, does it all work out?
As long as the fight's against the state, it all works out, honestly. That was the biggest thing that pushed me into this liberty unity thing was, and Reed Coverdale will say this too about the Tulsi campaign, was we went from busting our asses as a fucking family with 30 random strangers from across the country that we didn't know, who would have taken bullets for us, and we agreed on like 60% of politics max, maybe 70 for some of these people. I mean, I did meet like people like Reed where him and I are like 95% aligned, but a lot of these people are like full on Bernie bros. They thought Tulsi was Bernie 2.0, just hotter and smarter and more experienced in the things that mattered, and like actually cared about the anti-war stance. So there's a whole bunch of people on that campaign that I vehemently disagree with on so many things. I mean, I had Yo Pasta on the show a little while ago, and we were talking about a whole bunch of them. And so both Reed and I went through experiencing that amazing, literally family-like campaign. And then we went back to the LP, where we agree with literally everyone around us, 90% or more, and we're all fucking fighting about dumb shit. And it makes absolutely no sense. That's one thing that the duopoly actually does well, is they put aside their differences when it matters and work together as a team. And yeah, it turns into a vote blue no matter who kind of like shitty situation a lot when you play the team sports. But you have to a point. Like, you have to just stop arguing for like fucking a month. You're running a presidential campaign. Like, even if you don't support the presidential candidate or whatever candidate it is, if you're taking time out of your day to shoot your own party in the knee to make sure that your own candidates can't get anywhere because you dislike the thing that they said, like, A, you're a shit person, and B, I don't want to work with you.
Well, I think on that there is a line where it comes down to this person's not a libertarian, so even though they are the nominee, we shouldn't be representing them because that's just reinforcing bad behavior. Like, if we have a war criminal,
right,
and they're not
if we
repenting,
were running Bill Weld for president or
right,
something like that, but we ran Joe fucking Jorgensen.
Right, and that's
She's
what I was
the
going to say.
most libertarian person we've ran in quite some time.
Well, that's what I was going to say. She had her issues pandering to the left and hoping to win over that side of the spectrum, but that shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone given her background. She's a college professor. She's a psychologist, I do believe. So she's in that atmosphere where she's surrounded more by the social justice things. No one should have been surprised that that was her stance. So,
well, my biggest issue with Joe is she pandered both ways. Her first media appearance as our presidential candidate was Tom Woods, which, like, from the get-go pissed off a whole fuck ton of leftists. She went on Dave Smith's show to say that Tulsi Gabbard is only good on one issue. And went with that. Did I lose you?
Nope, we just had robot issues for a second there. But I understood most of that. So, yeah, she went on Tom Woods to start, and then she went on Dave Smith. And so if she was... But I think it's important to go on those type of shows, even if you are a more of a left candidate, because they have access to the quote-unquote right side of the party. So if she was not to go on those shows, to turn down those offers, she's basically saying, nope, I don't want anything to do with the right side of the party. They can shit themselves. So do you think, I mean, and I think as a candidate, someone who's going to be running for office next year, it's important to go on both sides. Now, your messaging
Oh,
should remain the same. You know, your
that's
core,
the key.
right. You should talk to everyone, but remain who you are and stick to your principles and your policies. Do you think maybe her
Mhm.
problem was that she pandered, given where she was, she would kind of tailor her show too much? Yeah.
She tailored every media appearance to the crowd she was talking to, that I saw at least. Um, and like my issue isn't that she went on Tom Woods or part of the problem. Like obviously, like I would love to go on both of those shows myself. Hoping to go on part of the problem here pretty soon. Uh, it's not that she went on those shows. It was the conversation she had on Dave Smith's show. Uh, Literally lost her thousands of votes. I watched it happen. She tore her campaign in half by going on part of the problem and saying that Tulsi Gabbard was the worst and most dangerous Democratic candidate that there was.
That's a really, really, really hyperbolic statement, to say the least. I think Joe Biden was
Yeah,
probably the second most, although he's a pretty moderate guy himself, he's just being run over by everyone. And then I would say Tulsi was probably the least dangerous. You know, her foreign
right.
policy is a huge improvement. Her domestic policy, she's a Democrat, but her foreign policy was really good.
But her domestic policy is like audit the Fed, free market healthcare, decriminalize all drugs, legalize all drugs, decriminalize prostitution. I mean, she's a better Democrat. Like even on that, like the ways we agree with Democrats, she's a better Democrat than anyone else on that stage
Hmm.
ever has been. And on top, like she's a free market capitalist. Like she says that constantly. Name me another Democratic candidate in our lifetime that goes on stage in front of a bunch of other Democrats and calls herself a capitalist. Like it's just not a thing.
And are you old enough for to have been alive when Clinton was president?
So I was born during the Clinton presidency, but I do not really remember.
I don't remember it. I was a baby. I was 4 when he got elected, but technically, I think he made that
Yeah.
claim once. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make it
Yeah,
true.
and a lot
But
of libertarians would argue that Bill Clinton was the best president of our lifetime. Uh, most libertarians put him at the top because he actually balanced the budget. He was like, or somewhat, he was fairly good on the foreign policy stuff for being a Clinton, and really just didn't do that much shit. He was kind of like Coolidge, where he just didn't really fucking do shit. So
he
no,
was
there's no real
too
reasons to hate him that
he was too
much.
busy with other endeavors at the time.
Right, right. We need more nymphomaniac presidents that just fuck their assistants instead of fucking other countries and their citizens.
We just had one with Trump. I mean, no, Biden's too senile to
Yeah,
know
but
what fucking
he
is.
was able to do both.
He was.
Somehow
He's
Trump
very
was fucking
talented.
everybody at the same
Very
time.
talented. Well, hey David, let me tell you what. So
Motherfucker's got like 8 dicks on him.
when we started this show, we were having audio problems, so no one got to hear your introduction on who you are and why you're here on my program
Oh.
today. Because of course, I have a program. Do you know what it's called? It's called.
It's the Harrison Kemp incident.
Nope, that hasn't started yet. But that's a good memory. Good
I know.
recall. Nope. Nope. This program is facebook.com/free speech media. Make sure you check us out there. Make sure you go to the dlive.tv/free speech media and trovo.live/free speech media. You can find Dave on Twitter and YouTube by looking up David Fite or Fight for Liberty. And you can also find all of that junk down in the description. So, David, please tell us again who you are and what you're doing on the Free Speech Media recap of Fight Week. Because if people can't tell, we're recapping Fight Week with David Fite. There might be a connection there.
Yeah, so this is Fight Week. We're wrapping it up because we went through and played a whole bunch of old, really cringy episodes of my show all week, which was super fun to watch. And so I am David. I'm the host of Fight for Liberty show, and I am a radical anarchist now that is out here trying to spread the message of liberty as far and wide as I can to as many people that will listen, and beat the shit out of other libertarians that try to push people out of the party because they're stupid.
But what if the pushing is received? Never mind. There was I didn't have a joke there. I was trying to make one and I couldn't. It failed. It failed like so many podcasters out and about these days that have failed. But you have made it a whole year. You've made it one entire year. Now you're up to what, episode 70 is today, right?
Mm-hmm. So actually, it's I have a 71, which was yesterday because this was supposed to happen on Thursday, or Friday.
So then this is 71.
Well, so, technically, I just left the numbers the way that they were, so they're in the wrong order.
Yeah, who's counting? You know, unless the IRS is going to audit you, who gives a shit? It's just the order. So you've done 70 episodes in a year. You've had, just in the last couple of months, you've had some killer guests on there. You've had some amazing debates, or not even debates, conversations is the better way to call that. You've had some amazing conversations on your show. Some of them have moved me personally. I learned a lot that on a topic I wasn't interested in because it's not in my forte, you know? So tell us about some of these cool guests you've had and about what are some of the coolest conversations you've had or the most memorable conversations that you want people to go check out.
Ooh. So yesterday's episode is still pretty fresh in my mind, and I think one of the better pieces of content I've ever put out. I was talking to Mark Pellegrino from Supernatural and Lost, and also the founder of the American Capitalist Party. So that was probably the closer to the debate ones, because we actually were kind of debating between our parties there for a minute. So that was fun. The Dave Smith and Rabbi Litvin one was also very good. I would say that those are probably they're definitely the two most popular episodes I've put out. But also, I think some of the best conversation. But fingers crossed, I think Tuesdays is going to be the best episode I've ever done, because Dave Smith, I've got like 8 questions already written out for him. I'm really, really excited about that conversation. So
that'll be a good one. You two have good on-screen chemistry.
We do, which is kind of weird because we have very bad off-screen chemistry. Like in the DMs or like on Twitter, stuff like that. Like we very rarely seem to like understand each other correctly. And so a lot of our interactions online are pretty bad. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But on screen, like in person, like with most things, life is better in person than online.
Right. Most
people are better in person than online. And yeah, I just finished up the episode of Joe Rogan that he was on like 2 days ago. And I'm gonna give you guys a clue of my first questioning for him, because they finished that out. The last 10 minutes of it was talking about like the jealousy that they felt of other comedians when they were coming up in their careers, and that hit home because what we're doing here, like I've definitely felt that, and I kind of caught myself like maybe last week. I have a bunch of friends that are trying to start up podcasts, and I was definitely like, I kept it inside. I wasn't like saying anything to them, but I was definitely like on the inside being like, no, there's too many podcasts. We don't need any more podcasts. Yep. And then those of my friends that do already have them. I mean, Reed's a great example. Reed started his show almost 3 months after I did. He'll even tell you that it's so much less lower quality than mine, especially in the beginning. But he blew up. Like he's got 5 times the following that I do on almost everything. He's had like Dave Smith on a couple of times, and Tom Woods is coming on, and like all these other people, and he blew up. And there was a great deal of time where I was happy for him as a friend, but definitely a little bit in the back of my mind, like, this isn't fair. I started this first. I put in so much more work, and I'm a year later still at like 300 and something subscribers on YouTube, and he just broke 4,000.
It's a long haul. It's one of those things
Yeah.
too where you're always going to wonder, what am I doing that's not quite right? You know, because I've watched your content. You have great content. I love it all. I watch Reed's show. He has great content. I love it all. I can't come up with a reason why one of you has 10 times the YouTube following as the other. I just can't. It's one of those things
Well, part of it's his one video. He put out a video with the M1 Grand assault rifle video. It was like one of the first things that he ever posted. And that's up to like 1 million views, I think, on one of his channels and 500,000 on the other.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. So he blew up off of a viral video. But even like he passed me in followers on Twitter, deleted his Twitter last summer, started a new one, and then passed me again within like a month and a half.
Damn. Well, you know, the thing is, sometimes it's not always just about the content. Sometimes there's just a personality type that people are looking for.
He's just a cooler dude than me. That's something.
Hey, he's
that
a cooler dude than
the
me.
The second I met him. He's a cooler dude than most people I've met.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it's weird for me because I'm kind of in the back scenes here at FSM. None of the fans really know who I am. And everybody's cooler than me. That's the thing. You know, everybody's cooler than me. So I always have that feeling. And you're right. It's hard to deal with sometimes that, like, oh, my friend just got this awesome guest. And meanwhile, I've got nobody lined up. I'm just recording an episode on some bullshit. So what do you do? Like, how did you get over that? How did you get to the point where rather than being jealous, you can now be happy for your friends?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm working on it. I really honestly just caught myself being like that maybe about a week or two ago, like that it really clicked with me that I was being an asshole and just a bad friend. And then honestly really listening to Dave and Joe both tell their stories of their exact same realizations of that they were shit humans for being such bad friends to the people around them and being hateful of their success. Knowing that both of them went through that and hearing their stories about it, and just that, like, I'm not alone in this feeling was really helpful of just a, even the greats went through that exact same feeling. And so I'm on a journey that will get there. So that was helpful to kind of just make me feel like less of a shit human for feeling that way and more of just okay, this is a natural like problem that people have that I need to work on. And I talked it out with a good friend of mine, Tom Queter, who's actually the affiliate director for Nug of Knowledge. So you'll probably be interacting with him a decent amount. I was just kind of talking it out with him last night because I had kind of just finished the episode, and he was like, yeah, like it's not a competition. You know, if you're putting out good content, people are going to watch your content, and people are going to watch the other content that other people put out. And yeah, there's a monopoly on time, and like there's only so many shows people can watch. But at the end of the day, if you're putting out good content, you shouldn't be worried about what other people are doing. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I just got to focus on what I'm doing. I mean, I interviewed Mark fucking Pellegrino, so I think like that's cooler than any of the guests Reed's had on. So,
well, and let's think about it too, right? Joe Rogan has what, 3-4 million YouTube subscribers, something. So, really, in the grand scheme of the world, that's like nothing. You know, 3 million people. Right. Joe Rogan is a nobody. That's my point. So if Joe Rogan is a nobody, don't beat yourself up for being a nobody. Joe Rogan's the biggest fucking podcaster in the world.
Right.
I hope that was more inspirational than cunty, because I wanted it to be inspirational. Because that's kind of how I like look at things. Because like I'm an author, so I write a book. Pretty much nobody reads the book. You know, it's just one of the things that happens when you're a nobody. But there are so many other authors who have put out amazing work that has greatly affected my life that only like 1% of the US population's ever heard of at most. And that's like nothing compared to the world. So
Mhm.
if Rothbard is a nobody, I'm okay being a nobody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. I feel like I see that that Joe Rogan is a nobody more as a challenge to be the first somebody
There, oh,
from
there you go. That's a
podcasting.
good spin on it. Be the first somebody.
It's like, yeah, I want to be better than Joe Rogan eventually.
Well, there's got to be.
I don't know if I want to be a better podcaster than Joe Rogan, because I don't know that I ever will be a better podcaster than Joe Rogan, to be perfectly honest, like not self-deprecating or anything like that. Like, Joe Rogan has a skill of conversing with people that is above and beyond the human norm, or even the above average human norm. Like, he is better than almost any podcaster I know at just getting things out of people and really getting into a deep conversation about shit and not letting it kind of lull or die out, and like not talking too much but talking enough and letting them talk. He's just so good at it that I feel like it's a natural just thing for him that I'm trying to glean as much of it as I can. But at the end of the day, I think that there's the part of our personality is just different, and I don't know that I'm ever gonna be able to fully mimic what Joe Rogan does with his guests. But that's okay. We have two different shows.
Well, yeah, you have two different shows, and if you mimicked Joe Rogan and what he does with his guests, why would anyone watch you rather than Joe Rogan? You know?
Right.
So you've got
It's
to
not
put
like
your
I
own
have
spin
cooler
on it.
guests.
And you have to put your own spin on it, personalize it, and learn some of the things he does. You know, he's got some great conversational techniques where he's able to dig for a topic you both agree on and have at least surface level knowledge on. And then that's another 10 minutes of conversation right there that spins into something different and different and different. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it really is a skill. And especially if you want to be somebody who is in the public eye, whether you're a politician or you want to be a lobbyist to help fight the state in some way, get comfortable talking to people, get comfortable conversing because it's very
Mhm.
important. And I'll say that was actually my impetus for starting a podcast in the first place was I wanted to get better at public speaking. I wanted to get more comfortable in
Mm.
front of a camera, in front of a microphone, just saying my ideas and saying how I think. So what was it that
Mhm.
for you that really started you on this journey of the podcast? And I know we've talked about your story of how you got into politics more in general, but why is it the podcast that you've decided to add on to all of the in real life action you take?
So I started the YouTube channel and just like the idea of Fight for Liberty as a whole back when I was running for office in 2019. So I had Fight for Liberty and I had Fight for NYC, and those were kind of two different things. And one was my campaign, and one was just I was kind of trying to grow them both organically because I thought I knew that I wasn't going to win, right? So I wanted there to be a mission, like a longer mission that I was working towards. And so the original idea for Fight for Liberty, like as an organization and just like a mission, started out of that to put out content and get people involved and get volunteers and get things going for just a larger thing than just my city council race. But when I started working for Tulsi, I was still using the Instagram a little bit, and like everything I posted on Facebook or Instagram went on Facebook. Like there was a little bit of content that went out between like November of 2019 and March of 2020, but almost none. And so during the pandemic, I was kind of bored, and there was a lot of things going on and a lot of misinformation going on. And I had the channel, and I felt when I started this, I felt like I was actually a pretty good public speaker. I didn't realize how much work I had to do and have done over the last year. But I thought, this is something that I'm actually good at, right? This is I can write and I can talk. So I decided that I was going to put out content, and I thought I was going to do like a libertarian themed like news thing. I wanted to try to mimic like The Rising, like with Crystal Ball and Sager or something like that. Or actually I took a lot of what I created away from the Patriot Act with Hassan Minaj on Netflix. I wanted it to be, because that's like long form and topical, right? It's like a 45-minute episode about one thing. So that was what I really wanted to pick up on. There was a lot of people out there just doing like bite-sized bits and pieces about like breaking news and stuff like that. But there wasn't a lot of like libertarian themed, like long form. This is what the bill they're voting on tomorrow actually says, for like 20 minutes of actually reading a full like 15-page bill and explaining what it means on YouTube. So that's what I was doing originally. I was doing one episode of that a week and one episode of a live show where I would have a guest on. And I went back to work in July and didn't have enough time to do the research for the other thing, and was still trying to keep up the guest show part of it. And I very quickly realized that I preferred that the people that I was able to connect with through my life and through social media and through everything else that I was able to have on my show were so much more experienced, so much more knowledgeable in so many different things than I was. And again, not to be self-deprecating, just objective. Like, we're talking about people like Valerie Sarwark and Joseph Bishop Henchman, who I had on in the first stretch of the show, like while I was still here before I went back to work. I went all the way up to like the incoming chair of the party, and who's brilliant, and I love him. And so I very quickly realized that my interpersonal skills are better than my research skills. And I would rather give a platform to people like Valerie, who nobody really knows what she's doing or what she believes or really much about her in general out in the world, and give her a place to talk about not only what she's doing for the liberty movement, but also just get to know her as a person. And it was spotty over the summer because I was working, but I was able to still put out a decent amount of content. Had a bunch of the 2020 candidates on, had like Adam Kokesh on, and had some really cool conversations that I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is I actually have the time to do this, and B, like getting to meet all of these people and have these awesome conversations and give these people a voice to really say what they're doing was worth way more than the like 4 or 5 people that were watching my other stuff. And just, it was an echo chamber, right? My other show was just an echo chamber. It was libertarians watching me rant about how bad the government is. And that's not, I mean, I was educating people. The bill deep dives were really nice. I had a lot of people thank me for those that really liked how intricate and in depth I got into some of those bills. But for the most part, it just wasn't the kind of content that's going to change the world, right?
No, I think the content you're doing now is the kind that can change the world. So I think you made the right choice shifting over, because I tried doing that model at first too, where I would do the deep dive research. I'd spend hours a week going through, making my slides that I could show everybody, referencing the bills that are being amended, yada, yada, yada. You get 5 to 10 people who watch, and they're all the same 5 to 10 people every week, and they already know most of what you're talking about. So
Right.
You're right. Now, since you've moved over to more of the interviews here, like we had talked about earlier, you've had killer guests, Kokesh, you've had JBH, Sarwalk, you've had Dave. I almost called him David Fite. You had Dave Smith with the rabbi on, and that was a great conversation. So what would you say is the kind of the coolest episode for you? What's the thing you took the most away from, like, either intellectually or that kind of maybe it changed one of your core philosophies within your liberty ideology?
So I had 2 guests on over the last couple of weeks who were complete strangers to me, and invited on by other people. And one of them was a nuclear scientist who blew my mind on a whole bunch of things, because I do very little about nuclear, and luckily I had a guest host on that episode to help me ask questions, because I would not, that episode would not be nearly as good if it was just me and him. We had Jeremy Todd on, who was the person that connected me with him, and he was nerding out and asking a bunch of questions. And so that episode taught me more about things than I think almost any episode had. And the other guest that I had on, actually only a few days before that, was given to me by you, Bruce. And I have to admit, when you first reach out to me, and like when we were first talking to him in that group chat, I was like, okay, he's some like older economist dude that spent so much time of his life researching this that he was able to write like 3 books about it. I made a judgment call, and it was a wrong one, because I was kind of like, this dude's probably kind of boring, but maybe we can make it a fun episode. Like I thought maybe, you know, I can liven it up. Let me see if I can make economics interesting. And he did it for me. Like I didn't need to do any work. He was super fucking cool dude, down to earth. We were talking about psychedelics and like what your dreams really mean and like shit like that. And I was loving it. One of my absolute favorite episodes that I've ever recorded. And yeah, just the judgment call that I made on him in the beginning turned out to be so just the opposite of reality that it really like made me go, you were wrong. Like you really need to be less judgmental about people that seem boring, because smart people can still be fun.
Yep. Well, that's like you'd think that the psychedelics at this point would have helped tear down your ego a little bit, helped you come to that conclusion. But all these outside influences are always important and really driving those lessons home. You know, Bruce Korber, by the way, is the gentleman we're talking about. He's the author of the Divine Economy Model. And you can find that on Amazon or at, I think his website's divineeconomymodel.com. I'm not quite sure. I don't have it on the top of my head, but it's a great book. I
think that's correct.
I'm still working through it, but he thankfully, and I appreciate it, Bruce, sent me a signed copy, so I get to add that to my collection. The next one I need a signed copy from Mr. Josh Fields of his books. He's got some books out that I want. So, speaking of books, what are you reading these days? What is Mr. Fite reading?
Where the fuck is my book? There it is. So I am finally about to finish The Great 1984 by George Orwell. Finally. I was given this book over a year ago, and I'm there. So it took me a little while. But my favorite thing that I picked up is this. It is the U.S. Constitution and Other Key American Writings, which is super nerdy, like super fucking nerdy. But it's literally everything from the Mayflower Compact to Obama's address on killing bin Laden.
Damn.
And yeah, so like the other day I actually read Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, like throughout, which I think I might have read when I was in school or something, maybe. But god damn, is that a great fucking address. Like just killer. I read it like 6 or 7 times through in a row and was like reading it out loud. I actually really want to memorize the whole thing and give it like at an event or something. I just want to give that speech because I think Patrick Henry wrote this better than I could. So I'm gonna just use his fucking words next time I need to give a speech because it's so perfect. And I love how he calls out the people that spoke before him as like, these people try to tell you that everything's okay, but it's fucking not. Like, it's time for guns. It is time for revolution. Like, it's long past the time where we could ignore what's going on and just go about our lives. Like, it's time.
Yeah, sometimes when I go to write an address or a press release or something in my book, I always feel like, what's the point? All the best stuff's already been said in perfect, eloquent English. You know, what's the point? And unfortunately, the point is that most people don't read that stuff. They just don't read things that are that old. So How do
Mhm.
you break down those complex ideas from, say, the Give Me Liberty speech to the average normie who isn't already knee deep in libertarian philosophy and history?
So actually, I had a pretty cool idea. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to turn it into a thing soon, but I'd actually really love to record a recreation of that speech.
Hmm.
With like the parliament and everything and the robes and the white, the word
A
wigs and everything,
recreation
or possibly a
that
modernized version. I think
speech?
would be really
Hmm.
fun. Like have them in like
with
black
like the
block
parliament
and
and
everything and the robes and the white, the
like
word
wig
wig signs and shit like that, and like giving like a revolutionary speech instead. I think would be kind of fun. But something like that, I think, because it's not like the words are outdated or boring or anything like that. It's just that people aren't going out there and looking for it and reading. I think that's the biggest problem is a lot of people just aren't reading.
right.
And so we have to give it to them in content, in like digestible content that they actually want to watch. If they're scrolling through Facebook and they see some cool like recreation scene of some old Virginian Parliament thing, that's interesting. Like that'll catch people's eye to where they'll click on it and they'll hear the first couple of words and everybody knows like how the speech starts and how the speech ends, and they'll be like, oh, this is Give Me Liberty, Give Me Death by Patrick Henry. Like, oh, this is interesting. And like it's not like people don't care about what he said there. Most people know that speech, at least the end of it. But as for me, Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, everyone knows that. Like people care about that. They just, including myself, haven't heard the whole thing or haven't in a while. So I think it's about pulling it out of the books and putting it into stuff people are actually looking at first and foremost.
Really bringing it to the new media of the day is that's
Yeah,
the key. Yeah.
yeah, because like you said, like a lot of this stuff has been written, but very little of this stuff has been spoken.
Ooh, that's a good
I don't
point.
I don't read that much. Like I really just don't. I watch YouTube. So I know most of the economy that I know is from Michael Malice and Dave Smith and people like that. Not because I've read hours and hours and hours of Rothbard and Mises and Hayek. Right.
You're missing out.
Uh, I know. I'm waiting on Malice's Anarchy Handbook. Basically, I'm just waiting till he finishes putting that together, and I'm gonna buy it and just read that whole thing, rather than trying to piece it together myself. Uh, so I think that's a big issue, and I am a huge fan of psychedelic or of philosophy chill step on YouTube. I don't know if you've had the pleasure of coming across any of that stuff. Would highly recommend. Just search philosophy chill step on YouTube. The first like 5 or 6 videos that come up are all great. Actually, really all of them are great. But it's chill step music, uh, interlaced with speeches from like Alan Watts, Ram Dass, Gary V, what's Russell Brand, Terence McKenna, like all of these great philosophers. And not only are you getting to listen to their speeches, which I do without the music sometimes too, which I think is better than reading it, you also, the way that it intermixes it with the music, and the music kind of calms you down and gets you into that mode, and there's like breaks in the speeches, they break up the speech and give you like 3 or 4 minutes of just music to kind of ponder that thing that he just really hit home. And like if we could do that with Give Me Liberty, Give Me Death, or fucking Rothbard books, right? We could just open up a whole new way of learning things for people.
I think that would be so. Everything you just said about turning it, putting it to music. I think that my latest publication would actually be perfect for that. As you were describing that, in my head, I could see like the thought experiments being put to music. You know?
The 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 homelessness one or the
Yeah.
fiction? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I'm actually if anyone watching this is good at music things, that's the only reason that this doesn't exist yet. I've put in a decent amount of the thinking to it. I just have none of the skill to actually put these things together. So if you are good at musical mixing things and you like chill step music or really anything like that, and you want to help me make this, please hit me up, because this would be awesome. I've reached out to like Tulsi Gabbard also to ask if I can use her speeches, because I think she's one of the most well-spoken politicians in America, where we actually have like hours of her talking that could be used for something like this. Same with a couple, like, you know, I'd love to put some old Ron Paul stuff in there too. You know, there's just so much good content out there, and maybe this is just me, but I haven't found a better way to ingest information than this like chill step overlay thing. Like is my favorite way that I've found to learn literally anything. And I've dug so much farther into philosophy because of those videos than I have almost really anything else.
Well, that really is the goal in
hooked.
everyone's education, is to find the way that they enjoy learning the most, that is best for them. And if it's through audio, if it's through visual, if it's through reading, do it more and take advantage of it. You know, as long as you can read, you don't need to read everything. You know, reading's an important skill, but it doesn't have to be the way that you learn things the most. I find myself too, even though I love reading, I find myself listening to audiobooks and YouTube and lectures and whatnot all the time, because it's a much different way of absorbing the information. And on certain things, I like having someone with a chalkboard talking about it right in front of me. And so, no, we're coming to the end here. We've got a few minutes left in this David Fite Week wrap up that we're doing, and so I just want to remind everyone: make sure that you give us a like, give us a subscribe, a follow, or whatever it may be on the various platforms that you're currently watching us on. Share this around with your friends. Make sure that they know who David Fite is, because he's got some awesome projects, some awesome guests on his show over at Fight for Liberty on YouTube, and you can find him on Twitter at David Fite. And you have a Fight for Liberty one as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So at David Fite or at Fight for Liberty on Twitter are by far the two best ways to get a hold of me. I fucking hate every other form of social media with a burning passion, I swear.
And if you want to help support great content like this and great content creators like David, and help keep this image or this vision of FSM alive, please donate at the Cash App. That is in the description down below as well. And you can find all of Dave's links down there too. Dave, go ahead and take a few minutes. Tell us why people should watch your upcoming shows, why they should love you with the burning passion that they do, and tell us what you're working on these days, because you and I are working on a project right now that I think is going to be very important, even if it doesn't necessarily win.
Yeah, so I am those are a couple of questions. So I'll go in order. Why should you watch the upcoming content is an easy question to answer. This week is two of the episodes that I've been most excited for. Tuesday is Dave Smith, and Wednesday is a girl named Emmy, who's on Twitter as Project Warnos. She is a full-service sex worker and sex workers' rights advocate who's actually using social media to help get sex trafficking victims out of their situations and into safe places, and finding them housing and like other things and support through Twitter. And so I was actually supposed to interview her a couple weeks ago, and there was a family emergency, so it got postponed. So I've been stoked for that episode for a couple of weeks now. Same with Dave. So those are going to be very awesome episodes. I haven't scheduled next week out yet, so we'll see who that's going to be. But I would highly encourage people to watch those episodes and the couple that I've done over the last few weeks, especially Mark Pellegrino, Eric Brakey, were both really good. Episode 69 was fucking fun. So definitely go check some of that stuff out. What am I working on is a really convoluted question, because I am a whole bunch of fucking things. But most importantly, at the moment, I am the deputy campaign manager for Stacey Pressman for mayor of New York City, which you are also helping on. So very, very, very excited for that campaign and what's going on there and what Liberty's doing in New York, because the Libertarian Party is growing very quickly, both in numbers and in popularity in New York City, especially since I ran. So that's been very encouraging to watch happen. I am also working more heavily with free speech media. And so that is that's actually going to take up the majority of my time, I think, going forward, because this is an awesome network with a lot of really cool people on it. So we're working to get you guys some merch. We're working to get you guys a whole bunch of different fun ways to watch us and support us. We're trying to help you guys earn some crypto while you're doing it. So if you didn't listen to Harrison and go over and watch this on DLive, you messed up. And that's really that's what I'm the most excited about. We're going to be at Freedom Fest and Pork Fest, and I'll be at YAL Revolution and a whole bunch of other events over the summer supporting FSM and Nug of Knowledge and Fight for Liberty. So that's the thing that I'm the most excited about, is how much fun my summer is going to be. As long as y'all keep supporting, because gas money is a thing.
We actually have a question from the comments. So
Nice.
The Naturalist Capitalist, who you should check out, who is another awesome content creator here on Free Speech Media. He usually has his shows on Saturday, but he will be live this Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Tom Woods. So he asks, who's the person you're gladdest to have met?
Ooh. Can I be a suck up and say him?
You can totally be a suck up. But I mean, I think it's if you're not sucking up to me, then who are you sucking up to, right? I'm the only one here.
Honestly, though, I have to. Yeah. Well, even giving it some thought, I really do have to say Reed Coverdale from The Naturalist Capitalist is my favorite person that I've met in the last. Well, now it's been almost a year and a half since we met. Just one of the most genuinely amazing humans that I've gotten to encounter, like just kind to the actual bottom of his heart, even though he will never admit it, and putting out some awesome content. We've had some of the best conversations I've ever had just in life on one of our shows together. So Reed Coverdale's a great person, and I think he takes the cake.
It's very rare to find people who are actually good all the way to their soul. So
right. Right.
So yeah, we're very proud to have Reed here on the network. He's making killer content, and that appeared to be all of the audience questions that we had for you, David. Unless you
guys
have
are
some.
lame.
So we want to thank everybody for watching on all of the various platforms, on David's YouTube, on the Facebook, on Trovo, on DLive. Make sure that you tune in every day to Free Speech Media, facebook.com/Free Speech Media, dlive.tv/Free Speech Media, and trovo.live/Free Speech Media. Every single day where we bring you killer content like this from all across the libertarian spectrum. David, any final thoughts?
Thanks for an awesome fucking year, guys. Honestly, I could not have imagined a more interesting and exciting year to have come out of what this was. And even, the rest of my life was crazy and ridiculous, but even just within the confines of what I've been doing on the show, you guys have supported me in ways that I wasn't expecting. You guys have gotten me in contact with fucking awesome humans that I was never expecting to talk to or have on my show, at least not anytime soon. So thank you. Like truly thank you for watching and supporting, because without you guys, this isn't worth doing.
Beautiful. Make sure you like and support him, and catch us next week for Liberty Dad Week, all day long, all week long. Thank you, and stay beautiful.
Get ready to remove the filter from your timeline. Get ready to break the censorship of social media. Get ready to support the grassroots alternative to establishment propaganda. Get ready for an authentic voice. Get ready to resist cancel culture. Get ready for free speech media. This is FSM.